Festival season 2026 began early for a lot of people here in Manchester and in the UK. Goremaggedon came and gone, and it was a celebration of the more extreme side of metal, brutal slamming death metal, gore grind, all that good stuff. And it was brought to us by Rancid Offal Promotions, a local company here in Manchester who really took a massive risk on this lineup. They brought in all kinds of UK debuts and exclusive performances on talent that was largely unproven here in the UK, but they took a risk, and it really is a mark of their ambition. It's not my style of music, really. It's not my go to, but I trust what they're doing. And this is a breakdown of the weekend, my highlights of the weekend. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. The festival kicked off with a pre show on the Friday night at the Atma on the other side of the city, and the place was absolutely buzzing. It's a brilliant atmosphere. It was a chance to catch up with people I hadn't seen for a while, hadn't seen for a few months, and it was more about the community than the actual bands. And I think that's the way it should be for a pre-show. The bands did kick off at about 5:30, quarter to six, something like that. It started off with Mega Fart, and that was basically 36 or maybe 37 songs in about 20 minutes. This one man, his laptop, and screaming with absolute primitive fury and rage. Next up, it was Lars Ulrich, not the drummer for Metallica, but rather a newer slam band who did a lot of improvised songs of hatred geared towards him. It was highly entertaining, and it's not supposed to be taken too seriously. We also had Grunk, Hideous Crawling Abomination, and Stuhlgang, all the way from Germany. All of them adding to the lineup, adding to the energy and the intensity. Now, unfortunately, we were supposed to have 55 Gore as headliner, but they had some issues. They got stuck. The flights got delayed by several hours, so there was no way they were going to make it to the venue in time. So the organisers, they could have just promoted Stuhlgang up to headliner, but they want to give the fans something more. So the members of Disgracing were in the building, so why not do a last minute headline set? And that's what they did. And 55 Gore were promoted to the main festival card the next day. They flew in from quite some distance, so yeah, I think everybody won in the scenario. In this, yeah, there's I want to use the word tragedy. That's probably the wrong word, but making the best out of a bad situation, I guess. And yeah, Disgracing, they closed off the Friday night. It was a fairly early finish and time to get home, rested for the next day. The main day of the festival started at very early doors at 12:30 on the Saturday. That was opened up by Legislate Mortality, and you could tell it was a bit cold. A lot of people hadn't really woken up yet, still nursing their hangovers, and some people hadn't even made it to the venue yet. So it was a bit quieter than you'd expect for the opening act. Then when Mincer played, they opened up Awful Fest a year prior, but still it was a bit quiet. It was a bit cold, and although they brought this chaotic raw energy to the stage, it wasn't quite connecting with the crowd just yet at this very early hour. It was really when Lymphedema took to the stage and the one-man Irish gore grind band, and you could tell they were one of the biggest draws at the early stage of the festival. And people were surging forward, getting to the barrier, and the pits opened, and yeah, that was an injection of energy they really needed. And again, it woke a lot of people up then. I felt sorry for anybody who had to go on after lymphedema, but we had cerebral anemia next. As they were up for the challenge, they were fantastic. They continued that energy, got our circle pit still going, and the venue was filling out nicely at this point. Maybe everybody felt a bit looser, had a few drinks down them, and yeah, the festival was really flowing at this point. Now, Fupa Goddess got a very short set. It was like 15, 20 minutes. And I think that was largely because the festival ran over slightly. That was mainly due to 55 Gore being slotted in last minute. They were supposed to headline the day before, but they had issues with the flight, so they were slotted in last minute. So that meant after them, it was time for a bit of a break and to get rested up before some of the bigger hitting bands later in the day. I haven't really spoken about the venue yet, but at a breadshed where all this was taking place, I just felt like Ranted Offal, they hosted Cytotoxin there a few months prior, and it felt like, a lot of the space inside the venue was used up for merch, and I don't think they used the space that well, to be honest, but at Goremaggedon, it was so much better. They cleared out a lot of the merch stands and put them in the adjacent bar next door, and it meant there was so much more space for activities inside the bread shed itself. And yeah, it just worked so well. Also, If you needed to have a break at any point, get out for some fresh air, there was a little beer garden. If you want to go out and talk with friends, that was an option. There was seating areas. So, I've been some old days where it feels like there's no escape from the carnage, and it really takes its toll on you. I sound really freaking old saying that, but it's true, and just made the whole festival a lot more enjoyable. Plus, we're right next to God knows how many fast food joints and convenience shops. So, again, it makes the whole thing accessible and a lot more enjoyable. After a break, it was time for Mystery Meat. They were making a UK debut and they were really hotly anticipated. And when they got on stage, it just felt like they had that star power. You could just tell, that huge presence on the stage. And yeah, it was just absolute carnage. Then it was Horse Bastard. They were absolutely chaotic up there and just full of primitive rage and angst, a bit like the early days of Napalm Death. And the fans just absolutely lapped it up. The pits were going crazy and even saw some stage divers at some point. Just no holds barred, unmitigated chaos. It was fantastic. I think they played about 30 songs in 40 minutes or something crazy. And again, I'd love to see them again. When it was time for Carnal Diaphragma, gotta be honest, I did feel a bit sorry for them. They come all the way from the Czech Republic and I felt like they deserved a bigger crowd, really. I think at this point, a lot of people needed a break just to get away from the noise and sit down. And a lot of people may have felt that that time was going to come during Kynal Diaphragma's set. And I really enjoyed it because they offered something different to the day at this point. They brought more of an old school death metal sound, especially in some parts of the set. Like some Obituary, the slower, more marauding side of death metal. Brutal Sphincter, they were the biggest band of the day for me, the band I was most looking forward to. And yeah, they made a name on the European extreme metal circuit. I just never had a chance to see them until this day. And they could take the crown, the biggest circle pit of the day. It was absolute carnage. I was watching it from a very safe distance. And yeah, they had some stage invasions as well. And it was an experience, I'll tell you that. Finally, the headliner, Fatuous Rump. And it was a bit, they only played about 30 minutes as well when it was advertised for an hour, which was a bit unusual. But I think that was again because of 55 Gore's inclusion to the lineup, the last minute addition. So that meant maybe they had to lose a few minutes. But yeah, it was funny because the vocalist Larry Wang, he had made quite a few appearances over the weekend for other bands, last minute improvised sets. And it's actually funny to see him inside his own band tonight, with his real band with Fatuous Rump. And yeah, they come all the way from Taiwan for this. It was their UK debut and was very highly anticipated. Yeah, and we had a whole stage invasion at the end. It was hard to tell who was a vocalist, who was a drummer, who was a fan. And yeah, it felt like a special moment really for a lot of people who had waited for them for so long to come to the UK. So yeah, my thoughts on Goremaggedon. It's not my usual thing to be honest. I like staying in my lane of black metal, death metal, that kind of thing. But this is a more niche, extreme side of metal, and it's all about the community spirit for me. Really, it's an amazing scene, and there's people coming from all over the country and all over the world for this. Really, I spoke to a guy from Italy. There was a guy from Canada also who flew in the night prior, and yeah, it's quite amazing, really, coming to this little festival here in Manchester. And you can say a lot of great things about Rancid Offal for this. I really trust what they're doing. They bring so much passion to what they're doing. And yeah, it's definitely worth getting behind. It's exciting to think how far it can go. And yeah, I just want to see it grow. I want to see it flourish. And hopefully, this video can somehow help the reach.